And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to APAC North, our final matchup of this evening. The Titan, one of the two that is in APAC North, CLOUD9, have the ability to climb up to #1 position after Cyclops' loss to Fnatic. Can they do it? Only T1 stands in their way. And looking at T1's performance so far, I think one of these two Korean teams will move forward, and we have a pretty good hunch on who it will be. Fluke and Ace on the analyst desk for this one. Pressure is on T1 today.
It absolutely is. Is it? Yes, it is. I'm having an internal argument myself. Of course it is. They want results. They want to start building as a team. But I also look at T1 and I think it's a roster that's been picked up. It's been sort of quickly put together. There's still transition and work to be done there. We've got Revy who's playing as player coach. It just doesn't feel like the final form yet. And I look at this stage and I think, is it just a write-off for them that, what, they're here, we're just getting established, we'll worry about that stuff later. And in that sense, maybe there isn't that much pressure. It's just sort of like, yeah, let's just go out and learn what we can. See where the gaps are, and then we can look to fill them later. But at the same time, these are competitive players, and everybody wants to win every minute that they play. So I'm sure that they will be looking to do everything they can.
Yeah, I mean, it's C9 versus T1.
Thank you so much, Emmy.
God, it's hard. It's hard for T1 because T1 are a team where they're trying to show up and, they're trying to give it their all, but C9 are in cruise control. And for them, across their entire season, this from the start was always the easiest bit of their season, not just because of how T1 have expected to perform, but based on where the other major teams are in the season as they opened on some big games and they close on some big games. And for now, this is them in the middle, kind of feet up, on the dash, sunglasses on, enjoying their time. Maybe it'll take them by surprise. Maybe there'll be a pothole in the road, sure, but it's got to be a really big pothole.
I'm sure they've driven around British motorways every now and then. C9, as you say, currently on CLOUD9. That is the reference for this. Let's go with the rosters then. CLOUD9 up first. And here they are, man. #1 potential today. They were, if you look at round differential loss, Cyclops are currently 1 round above them. But with Cyclops' loss, man, this could be really open for C9.
I think that's one of the things as well to say about them is sometimes, okay, if I'm going to say they're on cruise control, sometimes they're a little bit lax and relaxed in how they play. But when they know they need to step up to a challenge or when they sniff blood, they go for it. And now there's a little bit on the track in front of them because they've just seen that other team that was previously unbeaten stumble and suffer. And that gives you this impression and this idea of, well, let's step it up. Let's take this with aplomb, with some pace, and let's set ourselves as the undefeated team and the only undefeated team.
Well, just to let you know, our lobby is ready, so we're going to get through things ASAP. Their opponent's T1. Huge organization and a lot of talent on this team, but it's going to take them a bit more time. The 11 show, as some people have been calling it.
I think in reality, yes. I think we'd be looking a bit silly not to recognise that fact. If we look across the stats in front of us there, look at the rating compared to everybody else on 11 there. He really is doing a huge job for this team. And I think, as I say, a little bit of that is everybody else just needing to find their feet, find their place, and get comfortable within the roster. But whether there will be changes further down the road where Revy can move to coach rather than player coach, things like we may well see changes coming in as well. But 11 has been a shining light if we want to talk about him. He's been a great addition. He's been a great player to watch so far. And my fear for T1 is they're not winning when he does play like that. I'd hate to see them if he has a bad day.
All right, so the Beacon and the Deacon 11. We'll see if he can continue things on with his squad. Maybe others can show up for T1 or head-to-head very quickly before we figure out which map it will be. Guess pick one player out of each one of these two teams, and it's Shaw and 11. Look, completely understandable, but let's go beyond the stats.
It's Sophia mains that have, I guess, had different seasons. 11, in his case, the stats speak for themselves. But on the terms of Shy Allen, on the terms of Cloud9, what we've seen is a player who had a huge season last time and has had huge showings before, but this time hasn't quite had that same impact. And it's not because, you know, the team's struggling. It's maybe because he hasn't had to, but otherwise it's, you know, if he's the potential one of the weaker links on the roster currently, and he's still putting up numbers like that, and we know what he's capable of, what happens when he has his day?
And I mean, looking at the other side there, where Shayo is part of a strong team, 11 is a strong team. It's the top and bottom of it. He's coming in and he's doing absolutely everything at the minute for Team 1. He's getting the opening kills. He's hitting frags throughout the rounds. He's got a great KD. He's making the lives of his opponents very, very difficult. They know they have to play with one eye on him at all times.
Well, let's see which map we're going to be playing on as our lobby is readied up. T1 versus Cloud9. Cloud9 will have the final say. The remove Clubhouse, take us to Villa, their best map, and get a third Villa. 3 out of the 4 today. C9 start on attack, but will defense start BT1 saving grace? Yay, nay, very quickly before we head to game.
I think it's a Cloud9 day to be the undefeated.
It's Cloud9. I think I'd be absolutely astounded if this goes any other way.
Wow, honestly, you guys are so brave for putting your necks out there and
Jess would have
calling
still sat on the
C9.
It's what we do. It's what we do.
Yeah, Jess the fence sitter would have definitely gone for that, huh? This is what we're going to go with from now on. So sorry for that, Jess, but we actually are not. Fluke, Ace, thank you so much for your intro of our final matchup of today. We'll be back to analyze things once they're done, but it's Cloud9 versus T1. Yet another, I guess, sunny dusk day. I don't know how it's going to be now in Tuscany. We throw it to Villa for Jess Achu. All yours. Bless you.
Thank you very much, Milos. No blessings here needed. No sneezing, to say the least. But Villa, for the third time today to step into, Jess. APAC loves Villa, apparently, today.
Apparently, and unfortunately, I think Cloud9 also loves a bit of Villa until they met their matches of Damwon. And if you're a Damwon fan, you don't even know who they are. It won't matter because they're a Korean team and so is T1. So maybe it's, you know, that kind of vibe T1 is going with here. They're like, we're a Korean team too. We can stick it to Cloud9 on this map, just like Damwon did the other day. The first map they've lost to another team, especially that low on the leaderboard, in a very, very long time. So T1, they might pull the ultimate surprise here like Damwon did, but it's a very, very uphill climb.
An uphill climb, absolutely. And although today's been one of those days of surprises, almost 7-0 that we saw Fav when they were up against Talon, the last match, Fnatic surprising everyone, Cloud9 are kind of a team that I always look at and just think consistency. And they're a great team. We all know that. We've seen the highs they can achieve. I think for the second time, I've now seen Envy Taylor step onto Consulate and drop at least 17 kills and run around like it's his own playground. I doubt you'll see many teams being willing to try and take them there anymore. But those days like that aren't rare. On days when Envy's quiet, you've got players like Harper, who's been having a great season so far. You've got Shyle, who for all of last year was a name that never left our mouths. We were constantly talking about him and what he's been doing on the Zofia. Even the game when Zofia was specifically target banned against him, he moved to Blackbeard and picked up 9 kills in 3 rounds. This is a team of superstars. They are incredibly consistent. And to me, at least right now, with Giants moving to APAC South, are the shining light of APAC North.
Oh no, oh no. I've just looked at my stats. I'm feeling very upset because literally 3 days ago, Cloud9 absolutely slammed T1 on Villa. 7-1.
Oof, oof. And who started on defense on that day?
Cloud9.
Okay, there's something on attack today. We'll give it a bit of lean.
And then
like,
when
I'm
they
not
got onto
expecting
attack,
6-0 on attack.
Yeah, then T1. Okay, T1 won 2 defenses. The only 2, or rather, that defense of Aviator. So they only won 1 round, and that was defense.
Great, because that's where they're starting, Jess. So hopefully it starts out as a win.
Woo! Yay.
Let's be optimistic for them, okay? They could do it. Let's have some faith. Were Cloud9 playing with their coach in that game?
Let me have a look. Harper, Static, Charles, Nova, and MV Taylor, negative.
Excellent. Okay, good. I was very worried if so. If it's 7-1 with a coach instead, what happens when they're back at full strength? But no, what's the full strength lineup? And look at this interesting setup we're seeing coming out of Cloud9. Finker, you got the Monty coming out as well. And the fourth one I did see, but I forgot about for a second, is the Jackal. A bit of Monty starting to creep back in today across both Clubhouse and Villa.
Yeah, I mean, the figure's not that unusual. Harper runs it specifically on this map and ran it last time they went head-to-head on this map just days ago. So I think T1, they won't be surprised by the Finker going to be in play. My problem is that when you start boosting players like a Monty, etc., and you're boosting a lot of other players with really powerful weaponry behind them, I mean, you've got the Jackal. You have pretty much 3 possible fraggers outside of the Finker, of which the LMG is in hand for Harper. This screams to me firepower. You know why? Because there's no hard breach. Is this a rush? We're going to probably have a pause, though, and I'm not sure what that might be about. It might be a sound thing, might be a crash. Yes, it will. So they're going to rehost and make sure they get that other player back in, and then we're just going to come straight back to our faces. But I've worked it out. Round 1, rush. Weird rush with Monty, though.
I'm hoping that isn't now going to change because of the rehost that's coming. Unfortunately,
It
now,
can't.
obviously, no, surely not. They have to stay the same as they were before, but that doesn't mean they'll employ the same strategy because drone positioning even can give away what's going on for a team.
Yeah.
I can still hear the game sounds in my ears. So like, it's still playing on for now. We will go for that rehost in a second, though. When we do come back into things, we'll replay that round 1. How long has it been since we've had a rehost? It's been a good while.
It has. I unfortunately think that M's had 1 or 2 of her own, so I've escaped them. Maybe you and I have just escaped them as well. But that's, karma hits you eventually. So here we are in our very own rehost.
It will all stack up eventually where we will start getting slammed by rehost. I'm very sure of that. Because you are right. I think Lucas had a couple that have come through in the last few weeks. But either way, we were speaking a little bit around the kind of positioning of these two teams. Again, Cloud9, this towering giant, this monstrosity, always hitting high notes, always sat at the top of every competition, winning almost every major. Giants were the only team that could really stand up to them. From what you've seen so far in this APAC North season, is there a team that can rival Cloud9?
Poor. I wanted to say Cyclops, and then they pulled what they pulled today, and then it just made me feel really, I know this is not the right word to use, but I felt icky. Because I was like,
I was going to say dirty. So we're on the same sort of line thought there.
Yeah, we're on the same vibe there. And I think the wavelength that people need to take away from it, especially if you're not watching APAC North as intently as we are, or analysing it, the minutiae that we sort of go through, the big thing for us is that without CAG or Cyclops, stepping up and being one of the top 2 teams now that Giants is gone, unfortunately there will be quite a distance, I would even say a valley between the top 1 spot and then all the rest of the teams if CAG does continue this to slip downwards. And that's a bit of a shame because Giants felt that way in stage 1 of last year. They didn't really have a viable opponent to go up against, and it kind of felt like they would just sit on top no matter what. Got into stage 2, okay, teams started to pick it up. And I'm wondering if that's just going to be the same tale to be told here in this first stage moving on into the second.
We did draw some questions back on day 1 of the season, back when they played against Dan1 Kira as well. And remember, that was one of the games that, for Cloud9, we all sat there and went, "Oh, is the crown slipping a little bit here?" Like, everyone thought they would be the go-to dominant team. But in the first 6 rounds, there were a couple that came through, even with Dan1 throwing away a couple of rounds. Remember, there's a team killing round number 1. I think the other one, there was a weird run out that kind of was hyper-aggressive and didn't really pay off for them. They still managed to claw back 4 rounds against Cloud9 on that day. And we did ask the question of, at the halfway mark, are Dan1 that good, or are Cloud9 slipping? And then we got into the second half of the map when Cloud9 went on to defense, and they were astronomically good. Like, they reminded us just how big the gap is between them and a lot of other teams, and they looked stupidly impressive. But given they start an attack here against T1 today, I'm wondering if we kind of see a repeat, i.e. T1 start off looking good in the first half, then we get to Cloud9 being on defense, and they remind us, no, there is no one that can contest us here in APAC North.
It's interesting because I did want to bring up, whilst we have a little bit of time before the lobby sort of gets back into it, is that a lot of people might not have realized, and I do strongly suggest if you do want to follow these teams like Cloud9, the kings of APAC North, you do have to follow them in their national leagues as well. It's like when you follow Na'Vi, for example, you watch them in UKIN, you also watch them in EUL, you make sure that you're keeping track of how they're doing in multiple different leagues. The first team to knock Cloud9 off their pedestal was down one the other day, and that was a close 8-6. So it did go to overtime. Down one walked away with the win very narrowly, but I think that goes to show, and then you scroll through and you see, well, who stood up for down one? Goated naturally. Every single game since that last game has really stepped up. And then you look over to the side of Cloud9, who didn't perform? Well, the big fraggers, the two fraggers, I'm talking frag rolls here for the side of Cloud9, were the ones who didn't stand up. Charles had a 0.77 red rating. Oni-chan had a 0.76 red rating. That's the Ash, that's the Zofia, and that's the Jaeger.
Okay.
For me, when your fraggers don't step up, that's a big problem. So we've got to see here for C9. Maybe they were just having a bad day. Sometimes that happens. Not all big teams can stand up.
I was just enjoying whispering back to production because they went, "We're going back," and I was like, "Okay,
back."
It's a bit of a weird. It reminds me like an old advert, air quotes, for a theme park in the UK actually. When it was like kind of all whispery and spooky, and I was like, "Oh!" Whenever I heard you do that, then I was like, "Oh, that gives me vibes of like that old theme park advert." Kind of creepy.
Well, as a Australian at midnight, my time, who doesn't get to watch any TV, no, I have no idea what you're on about. I'm sure we have a little bit of UK vibes here. Thank you very much. Nevertheless, I want to see if this is going to be the rush that I had hoped for. That's why, I mean, when you're going on to Villa, not taking a hard breach screams to me that you're either going to do a rush or you're going to force yourself through a doorway with the Monty as that backup. I've got to see where they're mostly spawning. They are mostly spawning over towards study, or rather not study, over towards bedroom. Makes me think they might rush in basement and on up, but where does that leave Nova? I don't know what the play is, but it could just be, pushing in play from there.
Yeah, it could just be a very standard attack as well. At the same time, thinking about it, where you see Finker deployed quite a lot when the execute itself does come in. You've also got the Yak Jackal here to worry about the potential roamers around the map. We always speak about how large Villa is as a map and how much trouble can be caused by roamers. And earlier on, we were speaking about teams bringing the Iana versus the Jackal paired with the Nomad to help deal with the roam control. Nomad being banned in this game does give me some kind of question marks around, okay, we need to be aware of roamers that can come up behind us here. Probably why you're seeing Charles bringing along the Claymore here instead of the Breaches, because in that game earlier on today where Nomad was available, we always saw the Zophias bringing the Breaches along instead.
Oh no, one yokai down already in the first 40 seconds of the round. That's okay because a lot of teams, even in EU, have been using them to gain intel, at least their initial yokai. I am worried that they're going to be putting a lot of reliance on Nova here to be able to push in onto site. Without opening up Vault, without being able to open up Study, they're going to struggle to get in on site. What they need to get first is that damned red stairs. If you've been watching the other matches today on Villa, you'll know that that is where Tex got his ace, where multiple teams have been making it known that they want this, and it's going to be the power position for teams to be able to hold Aviator or to be able to give it up if the attackers do manage to get it.
Or the Shiko spot, as we call it on this map. Stick someone with a very, very capable left finger that can click on that mouse button at the right time, and you'll find they can absolutely murder teams from that spot. And here goes Yeti already finding one onto Nova. So now the focus comes in Cloud9. How do you deal with this challenge? You have the Monty that's now dead. You have the Finker you can play behind if you want to. You don't have any frags that you can use to try and clear him out, even if you do breach through all of those ADSs. Instead, it sounds like it's going to be the Finkers that kind of play. They'll try and go for something elsewhere, and Harper will find Revy, who whiffed a couple of those shots, but did do a good chunk of damage. Now Yeti's looking lower. The man is all seeing across both floors here. Anyone steps into his line of sight, they're going to the dirt.
Well, after Yeti from Sonics popped off the other day for NAL, it's going to be Yeti for T1 popping off here over in APAC North. Good hold of those red stairs, double kill for the trouble. And now C9, they're left reeling. What are they going to do with these last 40 seconds? They've lost two of their very key operators. They lost those finger boosts. They lost the Monty. They've also lost Charles to a disconnect. Oh no, it's all going downhill. This first round is almost as bad as it can get for the side of C9. Vamos, well, goodbye. Because it's C9 to possibly rehost again. I'm not sure if this is the player that crashed last time, but I would optimize your PC, buddy, because it's not looking good.
Sounds like it is Charles again having the issues, unfortunately. But thankfully here, because it is between rounds, we can just pause the game and get him back in, and things should then be able to press on. But yeah, I think losing the Monty early on was a little bit of a kick, to be honest with you. You were relying on him so much to go for the plant, and I hark back to Na'Vi from stage 2 of last year in EUL, the number of times that they got Kendrew playing on the Monty, for example. I think this was at a time when they were trying to compete with Pengu playing on the Clash, RIP, an awful lot, for example, or playing on the Monty, sorry, they bring the Clash along and they were like, hey, shields are really damn good. Let's bring Monty on attack as well. And they made it work a lot of the time on this map. I think especially when so many teams expect the default of plant behind Bolt Door, plant behind the Aviator table, and Monty's a good way to mix things up sometimes. Not so useful for you. Monty's the first one dead in a round.
And it makes me question how that happened as well. Were you unshielded? Did you put your back to red? That makes me think you didn't drone red. Where's the intel? If you're going to rely on a push that's so one-dimensional, there should be a few drones, you know, spotting that out as you start making your ingress onto the map. I have questions because this is not the C9 we know, but I remember very vividly you and I casting a C9 game where we were looking very... worse for wear when it came to C9 on Villa. We said this wasn't a good map for them. It's one of their weakest maps. It's why teams want to go take them to Villa, and then they proved us wrong. So I'm just wondering whether or not it's just the first couple of rounds. Maybe they're also shaken by the PCs not working 100%. Shah's not been having a good season. There could be a few things going on behind the scenes that we're not seeing just at the moment.
It's a good way to shake your mental because like Havana are a team that I always think of in this sense as well. They have their kind of pre-game prep. They have a little ritual, as they call it. And I love like teamship rituals and all that as well as a way to get a team right. Now the game starts as soon as you start this air quotes pre-game ritual that you go through. And when I say ritual, I don't mean like a weird dance on the spot or anything and start chanting weird words. No, it can be as simple as all watching a video together or having a pep talk from the coach. You get your mind frame in the game. And then in round one, you have the instant disconnects. You get back into the game. The disconnect happens again. And before you know it, everyone's back into a bit of a tilted mind space because of the issues that are going on. I don't want to see that kind of wear on too long here for Cloud9. I really hope they've got the composure to when they get back into round number 2, we see a well-structured attack from them. It did take them a while to warm up against Damwon Kia. So I think either way you look at it, it might take a bit of time. I'm still holding out for that second half to really show us what they're made of, though.
I will give it to them, however, and I know I always pull on what BDS and Alems had said in day one, Playday number 1, week 1 of EUL, and it really stuck with me, is that sometimes it takes a little bit to warm up into a stage. It also takes you a little bit to warm up into a match sometimes. And that's why some teams have started picking their offside to start off on. Because, I mean, naturally, if you're going to do bad, you want to do bad on your worst side. You don't want to do bad on your best side and then get into your worst side and be on the back foot times 10, you know? So I think there's a lot of teams and coaches and support staff thinking about how mentality and what your particular percentage win on a side can do. And if Charles or Nova are having a bad first half, that's kind of okay because they can pick it back up on their defense, of which defensive-sidedly Villa can be sometimes. So I don't mind them starting off a bit rough. It's when 2, 3, 4 rounds start to collect, think back to the Fav game, and you start to go, this is very one-sided.
We are channeling a lot on C9 here, but I think the one thing we can't take away from T1, I was about to say Talon, I was like, there's too many T's.
There's too many T's.
T1. There are. From T1, that was a good defense. With the red hole that we were speaking about as well, we touched on the 3 ADS setup, and I thought, okay, there'll be a bit of a war over this, but Cloud9 will clear them out. They've got a Monty, for God's sake. But to find a 2K from there and then clean up around the rest of the map as well, you could have very comfortably switched the names of those teams, and we would have been convinced that was Cloud9 and the defense with the defense that good. They have started well. Sure, Cloud9 are shaken, but say whatever you want. They've turned up today ready to play, which is such a key thing, in my opinion, to come into these big games with the knowledge of or the attitude of, we can beat the big teams, we'll bring the fight to them. Good.
I do want to pull out, and I know this is pulling statistics, but I do have quite a lot of rounds to go off here, so I can actually be pretty confident in talking about this. If I bring up T1's history on Villa and I go, well, defensively, how do they do on each side? Let's even break it down to the minutiae of each side. They were holding games in Aviator there, and that's their most played defensive side by far. They've got 18 to 27 different rounds of them playing that. As a whole, they have a positive win rate on it, which is hard for a team that actually hasn't done really well in APAC North. And this is with Korean Open as well. So it does go against, tier 3 teams as well, or tier 2 as well. But that goes to show that they're putting it down to the last 30 seconds, average round length, 2 minutes 30. They're wasting time. They're winning most of their rounds that they play on that side. And then they even do statistically even better on statue and trophy, even though they play it less. Most rounds go for 2 minutes 47. They win more rounds than they lose by far. I mean, goes to show that I think they know how to hold top floor. Does look a bit shaky as they start to go down to the bottom floor, but that's okay. If you can win the 2 top floor sides and maybe you will lose your third one, you can just go back to the initial and then, redo it all over again.
We spoke about this a little bit earlier on, how for a lot of teams, the kind of two standard sites are the top floor ones, but as soon as you go into dining and kitchen, well, things can fall apart there. It's kind of where the whole, 4-2 is the expected scoreline on Villa because you are expected to lose dining and kitchen, or it was that way for the longest time. And we touched on how in some regions, and LATAM sprung to mind, I can't remember which team it was that did it, but they hated trophy and statuary. They refused to play it. They just completely went all the way around it. What they would do is start an AVG, then go downstairs to dining and kitchen, and if they had those 2 rounds on the back, would then go down to library. So it was like, interesting rotation of sites. So you always expect to see AVG as the very dominant site across all regions, I think. And then there's a little bit of kind of questioning of, okay, well, do we go here? Do we go there? Like, I don't know.
I don't really know. I mean, I hate to be the kind of person, I think as an analyst, I've grown specifically over the past year or so in just not wanting to put a lot of favor in the side of statistics, because there's too many times that, the statistics don't tell a true story, don't really tell how the team's prepared behind the scenes between Playday to Playday, week to week. And I think T1's one of those really unpredictable dark figures inside of APAC North, that they've come in, they've got this fresh lineup, essentially. They picked one of the lower tier teams out of APAC North from last year with a few replacements. So they're pretty much a brand new team. I'm worried that they've got a lot more growing to do. We're being quite harsh on them. We're putting a lot of pressure on them, and they're under a very big organization, which puts even more pressure on them. I think they're just trying to find an identity. I'm going to use your key word here. Once they get an identity, stage 2, stage 3, I do expect more from them. So, yeah.
I wondered how many times I'd have to use identity before it started to stick. And now you've just shown to me it is stuck. It takes about 2 weeks of saying the same word enough, and then it does start to come across by the sounds of it. But hey, Charles is back in the game. We're going into round number 2, and we're seeing a change coming out here again. What are these lineups? No hard breach coming out again. They've dropped the Monty and moved over to a Capital.
No, they do have a secondary hard breach. It's not going to open up much. It's going to open a little peeky hole over towards triple ball if that's where they decide to push on in. But it's not going to do much. I don't understand this. I don't mean to be rude to C9, but this seems like a troll lineup. It doesn't make sense to me that you would push on Villa with a frag-only lineup when there are so many walls, especially on the Aviator push. There are so many walls that you have to deal with. Why not even a Habana, or there's not even any heart breach bans? I don't understand, because when they went against T1, they brought a Habana. It's not like they do this consistently. This isn't their MO. They're just doing it here today for some reason.
Behind the scenes, T1's Twitter account is currently DMing Cloud9 saying, hey, you got the PayPal link, right? Don't know what's going on entirely. I'm joking, of course. We'll see. The thing I do like about this, and I've very rarely spoken about it, but what I do have always kind of kept an eye on is when you have like a Zofia and a Capital together, think about just how much utility you've got across 2 operators there. You've got the Claymore for the rotations, you've got the hard breach if you do want to go through a wall, and you've got 8 pieces of utility between you to use to execute, blow up gadgets, to cut off areas of the map, to smoke for plants. There's so much those 2 operators do as a collective when you've got them together that I do think there's probably some merit in this. Sure, the only wall they can look to open up here is something like the Master Wall, and maybe that's going to be the plan. But a lot of it, I expect, is going to be pushing in from the south side and then looking through and execute through one of those doors behind the cover of smoke. And yeah, never mind, he's dead.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, look, you can see a double kill there, and 11's able to trade back onto Static as a result, but they really aren't getting the width for worth that they need, because there were no drones for main stairs. They should have known someone was extending and playing out of there. Numbers are even, but it didn't have to be that way. It should have been very dominating here for C9. Of course, 11, he's able to also get MV Taylor. Not sure what that's about. I feel like I'm more confused than I was before this round even began. And well, Charles, I mean, PC issues rectified, but he's going to have to make it big here alongside Harper.
I just talked a load of tosh about Capitan Zofia and being excited, and apparently having the Capital entry for you was the way to go. Don't know why, because of course you then lose all the utility, which they now don't have on side 4, this execute, and you're staring at a pretty normal execute outside of the Finca. I just don't know at this point. 2 versus 3 though, in 1 minute and 10 to play. That leaves quite a lot of time to make something happen, but you've got to win those, and they're not going to win those. Harper's alone in a 1 versus 3. That should be T1 taking round number 2 pretty convincingly here, even with 60 seconds left on the clock.
I think Charles had seen the person playing Pixel on the shield, and then, not to say that he didn't shoot back, but, you know, when you're standing looking at a shield that has tiny mirror windows in it, maybe move. The pre-fire is probably impending very, very shortly, and he got the short end of the stick in that one. I think C9 want to play T1 with a fire versus fire mentality, because T1 has shown, especially in the first week or two, that they were hyper aggressive. Think to the Oregon game. They were peaking everything, running out everywhere, doing whatever they could. My point there is that overall, if you want to play a team with their own tactics, you're going to lose. You're playing T1's game. You're not playing your own game. You're not playing the C9 game.
Yeah. I mean, you look at T1's lineup and they've got the Wamai, the Jaeger, the Goyo, the Malusi. They are playing a very, air quotes, normal, should I say, like setup.
Yep.
And Cloud9 are still staying with the wildness, and they're not changing away from it either. They're still sitting here on the Jackal, on the Finker. Maybe there's a change or two to come in. There is the one. IQ being brought across instead, I think, because identified the Echo was a bit of a nuisance, or would have been if they got towards the execution point, holding on to the Finker for now. So kind of stepping back towards a more normal lineup, given they've actually got some hard breach. Okay, they're going there at least.
Well, there won't be any Echo to contend with, but there will be Capcan traps, there'll be mute jammers, there'll be some Banshees to spot out, for example. I mean, pretty much every single operator on the defense can be spotted out by the IQ scanner, especially the Pulse. I'm not saying it's a counter to it, but they did 6-pick off the Jaeger and they brought the Malusi instead. A lot of people go, what? What about grenades? What about this? What that? Well, the attackers aren't bringing any, but even more so important than that is that you don't really need a Jaeger on a site where you're predominantly going to play vertically. So for them, they're more focused on things like C4s, of which they have 3, the scanner from underneath, and making sure those Surya gates are going to be in places that are either an indicator or an area denial operation in total. Be interested to see now they've reinforced these top statue walls, whether they also play up here. I think Revy's also going to impact triple wall above, so it's a pretty extended hold upstairs here.
Not exactly unusual to see this either, now that you think about it. I mean, looking across on the side of where you got the IQ and the Ash, each with 3 breaching charges too. Sophia is still rocking the Claymore for helping to, again, look out for those rotates, for example. What doesn't want to prevent a red flank come charging up from behind and suddenly put all of their attempts in the bin. I was going to make a joke earlier about how he's going to literally get out his scanner for the first time and go, what the bloody Nora, because of the amount of gadgets that are scattered around the map. You've got the 5 charges coming out from Revy, you've got the pulse scanner, the 3 Malusis, the Rooney gates, the mute jammers. They've got everything to throw at the side of Cloud9 here and try and slow them down. Look at it. How much on one scanner do you want?
And then there's the Pulse moving around. And he's going to be wondering, okay, is that the Pulse? Is that a Vigil? Who have I got here with me? It's going to be the Pulse. I mean, you could just imagine all of the different things he's feeding. Someone was upstairs on a cam as well for a moment. I mean, that's so much information you have to feed. Now, this is a pretty typical, more old school kind of push when you're pushing downstairs. Take that library control over towards that sort of China area and have a pinch that way. I don't know if they're going to do a vertical push at all here, Des. Considering the Ash bought the breaching charges and so did the IQ, I actually thought they would have. Albay doesn't look to be the way that they're going about, at least not yet. A Selma charge on a soft wall, that's a questionable one as well. But hey, guess what? They brought a hard breach. It hasn't opened up any hard walls yet, but go figure.
They've got the breaching rounds, they've got the impacts, they've got the breaching charges. They've got so much soft destruction they can make a good use of here, so I agree, maybe a question mark around why on the hallway wall in that case, but the hole is open. They can see all the way up the hallway here, and it should give them a little bit more freedom to start focusing on other areas of the map, given they've cut off one of the main corridors to rotate through the map. It looks like you're all right. They're gearing out towards the west of site here as well to think maybe about a push in. Harper currently holding the more spearhead of the operation, looking in towards site, waiting to see if anyone does get forced out as the aggression starts to come in. This normally is where you'd expect him to sit here and wait for someone above to start opening holes up and force the defenders off site. But Revy's like, hey, I'm top of stairs. I'm totally fine being here. Shyle, again, off to a pretty weak start here. 1, 0, and 2 had the disconnect at the same time. But Revy's equally not had such a bad start. He had the kill at the very start of last round onto Nova's Capital and has just brought down Shyle on the Zofia.
Oh no, you've got to hit those, Harper. You've got everything you need and an LMG in hand. But Replica says, good night, sleep tight. And so does Revy. Double kill for the trouble. Make it a triple. The coach stand-in, or rather the player coach now as he's known to be. Last week he had a banger, and it's looking like this one won't be much different.
Well, this is perplexing. I did expect the Cloud9 would come and struggle. I thought they would struggle in the first half. I didn't think they would struggle.
Really?
Like I said earlier on, right? Against down 1, they struggled in the first half. There were a couple of messy rounds in there. They did get a few rounds over, so okay. But I still thought that T1 would come in and take a couple of rounds off them, like 3 or 4. But with the way it's set up so far, no. I wonder, I've just seen the pause come there out of medics. Is this going to be a tactical timeout coming out for Cloud9 already? Because if so, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Completely understandable. Let's not lie about this.
Generally, most coaches or even IGL's captains will have that preset in the back of their mind that if a team runs 3 rounds in a row, sometimes you can let it go to 4. That's when you've got to call the timeout. You've got to, you know, stop the bleeding, stem the flow, and I think that's what Cloud9's trying to do now. But I have so many questions, so many questions for Cloud9 that will probably go unanswered. I don't know if they just thought this match would be better fought mechanically. I don't know. Yeah. I don't understand.
I mean, that last round wasn't like, okay, it wasn't a standard take. They didn't go for the top 4 and start opening things up. They were looking to push laterally into the site and go for an execute from there. I get it. But the no drone onto Revy, holding on stairs, who then pops up and kills Charles for free, and then rotates out and kills 1 or 2 more too. I was like, what? It was just a little bit perplexing, I think. And I'm hoping here what's happened is the coach, and I got told this by a couple of NA coaches, they said, you know, the reason why you like to call the tactical timeout and have a conversation is when you can hear, you can feel the team's mental slipping. If you know your IGL still got control of the room and they can call the right changes to make, for example, if you need to call a timeout and go, look, guys, just pause for 5 seconds, right? Breathe, get your head back in the game. Let's reset, go at it again from here. We know what the game plan is. These 3 rounds have been messy. Park them, they're gone. It's kind of more of a pep talk, right? Rather than here's the small, specific niche change you need to make in a round. Sometimes it can just be that mental boost that teams need. I mean, apparently they said to them, hey, bring the Capitao again and let's make that work. But I don't know about that one, Sheaf. Let's hope Nova is at the entry death this time.
Well, they don't have the Monty to sort of skirt behind here, so that's not going to be something that they lean on. Not a crush operator they're hoping to make work. If I'm T1 right now, I'm feeling pretty good, but also a little bit worried that maybe in the second half, C9 are going to transfer this aggression that they're looking to take on attack, but onto defense. And that can be really hard to work with as an attacking team, is when you struggle to get in the building. So that might work for C9 in their second half. I just don't think on their attacking half, it's really paid dividends whatsoever. Nevertheless, they'll do pretty much exactly the same push they did last time they aggressed over to get that red control. Didn't work for them. This time, hopefully, they've learned from their mistakes, and maybe they could flame there instead, because I don't think there's any magnets there, and if there is, there's maybe max 1 or 2, so you could cook them, get some, some flames in over on red, get some control pretty quick, maybe?
Maybe? I'm hoping so. I mean, I'm hoping.
We are not convinced, are we? We do not sound like two convinced people.
The thing is, right, look, they're a good team. I keep on saying this. They are a great team, and it feels like I'm going to start, like, as the world falls down in flames around me, I'll still be standing here going, but Cloud9 are a good team, Jess. Like, we can be insisting this point until the end of the earth, but if you're not showing up as a good game here today, that's going to be Cyclops and Cloud9 that are slipping. Yes, I'm not convinced so far. I'll give them a couple more rounds and see how this ends. If they have one good round with the Capital, Finker, and Jackal, for example, then suddenly it'd say, oh, that's what they were trying to do, but kept getting caught out on. Sure, the droning fundamentals maybe were missing, but let's hope there is something to this, because I like seeing creative comps work. Otherwise, we go back to the defaults and we see nothing change.
There are so many crossfires set up here, so many drones being shot as they just pepper them over and over and over. That's what the hard breach is being used for, to get red control. Ouch, that's half the round used.
Question mark?
Yeah, that's half the round used just to get the person off of red. And there's Revy below in the hole made by the Zofia. This is not going well. Yeti, he has to escape from the flames, and escape he will with 11 with the crossfire and Revy below. That means everything can be theirs. T1, they had redundancy after redundancy, and it didn't matter if you brought those flames to deal with them. Revy's just absolutely causing a ruckus below, and it's that shield on the maps that have caused all of the trouble here for C9.
I wonder if the Capital was designed mainly for this, if there's a red hole drill there to break it apart. Finally, there's a kill coming back their way. Woo! But they tried to double burn out stairs. The player had already departed. They knew what was coming because of the number of drones that were raining in at them, and Cloud9 didn't catch it. Only now are they starting to look at the door, but there's 40 seconds on the clock. It's a 2 versus 4. Nova and MB to try and bring everything back here, else it goes 4-0 to T1. Yeti holding Jasper, as I might start calling in future, because he was down here earlier on and sprayed the hell out of the planter, turned on the guy in study door, and the round was done from there. Let's see what impact he can have if the plant comes in from this angle for Cloud9. With only 20 seconds left, though, Jess, it's the only option they've got.
Oh, a failed smoke, and they're going to pretend that they're planting over towards Volt. I don't think anyone's buying it. You can see a little bit of a prone walk in, but with 10 seconds left, the diffuser's only in Nova's hand. He doesn't have a lot of HP,
hell,
and Revy makes that nothing. Is that a 4K for the player coach of Revy? Pop off, my man. You've been doing a world of hurt here in 2021. I don't think a lot of people would have thought after his performance last year, and yes, at the moment his rating isn't quite high, but I think slowly as the weeks are rolling by, he is redeeming himself more and more and more, and you can tell that T1's given him a lot more room to breathe because they're putting him on flex frag roles, which he used to be put on full support no matter what. He was put on Clash, he was put on Thermite, he was put on roles that are rather thankless. He's stepping up, 8 kills, 1 death. The man's be coming in like he's his own. Who's the best coach that stood in? Hyperino.
Yes.
Hey, I
was
clutched around as a coach.
I was about to say he's having the Hyperino effect because it was actually on Villa against Fatality when he stepped in for Chaos that he got the best rating and currently still holds the best rating in all of EUL for stage 2, I believe it was.
Yep.
No one topped him. No one.
Well, I'm living for it. I'm living for the player-coach lifestyle here that Revy's rocking. And I think a lot of these players will be cheering him on as well because, you know, that's what you want. You want someone who's been practicing really hard to do well. And that's what Revy's able to do here today. I want to say it's only 4 rounds, but I did say 3 rounds ago that when the rounds start collecting and accumulating for a team, that can only snowball into a really negative thing. So I need Cloud9 to get this round. This is it. If they don't get this round, I really don't hold a lot of hope for them in the rest of this match unless they completely reset their mental in the second half.
Second half can change a lot. As soon as you switch over to defense, it is basically a whole new game unless, like you say, you hold on to that mental from the first half. But in my mind, again, you need to get a couple of rounds ideally here. If this goes 4-2 now, that would be fine. Right. I think we could even look at this and probably in the history books again, we'll look at the scoreline at the half and say 4-2. Okay, kind of expected. T1 put up a good fight, but C9 still got the 2 rounds they needed and then close things out on defense. That's the way I could see this going if they get these 2 rounds. If they don't, then it's a very different conversation, I agree.
That would have been the freest kill had he have been there just moments earlier. He had the drone going, but that's what happened when you self-drone. There's a moment between getting off your drone and going for the kill, but don't worry. That had been relayed to Envy Taylor, who was slowly making progress through into Memorial, and he'll net the kill instead, so not all is lost. That's what I think was missing from C9, is a little bit of cohesion and coordination, where if they want to be a frag-heavy lineup, fine. But push in together, make sure there's, you know, those trades happening, make sure that you're putting kills on the board that show us that this frag heavy lineup is worthy of it. They do have Nova on the Selma charges ready to go for the wall, and I'm glad they do because that triple wall will start to get opened up, and as it does, it'll be 11 to dance around it.
Well, they managed to remove the shield on Master. The ADS is disabled. The wall's being opened up. It all got smoked to the high heavens. And now they've even rotated off to get open the bathroom wall. So they have got the right angles they need here. But like we saw from the team that played earlier on, I forget which one it was. We've seen Villa too much today already. You've got control of this northeast side. Now start thinking about the push from the south if that's what it needs to amount to. But Charles says, forget about the south. I'm coming in from the west and working my way up these stairs as he found that entry kill in. That's 2 dead on the side of T1. God coach Revy is also down.
Well, this is looking so much more confident here for C9. We said, you get those 2 rounds on your attacking half and we will forgive you for the first 4 rounds that had been absolutely slashed upon you. That is a back that you should not have exposed there. And Static, he couldn't believe he missed out on that kill, but a lot of headshots this game. That's one of those statistics I'm noticing a lot of. Good muzzle awareness and crosshair alignment. And Vamos, well, again, just showing me that headshots really are the name of the game here.
Envy's worked his way pretty much everywhere. That opening kill for him down in Memorial, then moved up to Closet and has got another one here into the Master doorway. 2 versus 3. One of them being an Echo is my only concern here as we get into the final 20 seconds or so. Envy takes a bit of a shot, still alive in this case though. Are they going to spray down here? Maybe they will. The C4 masks it for the briefest of seconds. In he comes. Vamos goes down. It's a triple kill for Envy in the round. And Charles will collect the last one from the back stairs. And like that, the old school duo of Charles and Envy step up big.
Well, that's what you want. A much more confident round here from C9. I was a little bit worried with those rounds. And I mean, you and I were the biggest fans of C9, especially last year. We spoke about Charles a lot, and you spoke about it in the pregame. And I sort of said to myself, I don't want to be that person that gives excuses for C9 when they're playing badly. And that's what those first 4 rounds were. They were playing badly. T1, they absolutely manipulated all the mistakes C9 were making, and they made it look a little easy. That round, that was not easy for T1. They were getting picked apart left, right, and center. The pinch was good from C9. Now we'll see the 0 come out. We won't see another hard breach. That's okay. It'll get 6-picked onto a Ying because the site will be downstairs, and that's where a more frag-heavy lineup is more appropriate.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by
Okay. Just would have thought, some normality is restored. Then we go and roll out this kind of comp. I mean, I'm here for it. I'm ready. This could very much just be a intel feed across from the 0, a door bust with the Ying, go for the plant while being boosted up by the Finker. Makes sense on paper. In reality, I guess, remains to be seen.
I want to see how they use the 0, though. I've not really seen Envy use the 0 a whole lot. I mean, the hard breach secondary is something that I think they might be able to use on the laundry wall if that does get closed up. And then they could have a double angle there going with, you know, the Ying, the smokes, the Finker, whatever you want to do. Maybe it's a pantry rush they want to get out, and they'll need that secondary hard breach to open up that single wall where the mute jam is being placed down. Whatever it is, I just want to see them do it with some kind of pre-thought to it. Don't just randomly run in and hope for the best. I hope there's some strategy behind this composition that makes sense once this round starts unfolding.
I'm reloading.
Hoping so. I mean, we started to almost see it come together with the Capital earlier on with the break onto red stairs. It didn't work out for them, but the idea was there, and that was the important part. Let's see if it does shape up at all in this round. We've seen the full rotation of strange operators. We've had the Monty. We've seen the Capcan on this map as well. Everything's kind of dialed up in several different ways. And at least for now, it looks like the focus is again on these longer angles. Without the ace, they're not going to be able to Selma the wall open. Instead, going to have to spray through it instead, which probably could have been what they could have done first time around, but opted not to. It does give them that visibility, though, again, to cut this rotate on the ground floor, stop defensive players from rotating back and forth between left and right.
Well, if they didn't know that the Ying was 6-picked, they'll damn know now, as that LMG is very, very obvious, especially when you start shooting it for long periods of time. You saw Envy down in Laundry. He used one of his cameras to cook one of the ADSs, then used his gun to destroy one of the Banshees, I believe it was, that was on the wall. So that was really cool to see that you can use it in multiple different ways. Surya Gate will be reactivated after its time period has elapsed, and maybe they'll do a bit of a top 4 take here. He could use his secondary hard bridge gadget to open up some of the triple wall and apply more pressure to Yeti upstairs, but that's a suppressor going all the way through 11. He's had a few good kills here, but him going down alone there, it doesn't mean too much because half the round has already elapsed, so he did waste quite a bit of time.
First adrenal surge has popped out as well as they too try and press their way through the map a little bit deeper, start looking more towards the side. Shyle just hitting better today, it feels like. Revy started out good, but Shyle has kind of gone, right, guys, time to start playing. The PC issues have worn off and I can start playing again. Yeti goes, nah, just forget to remember what happened at the very start of this map. Me and Revy are here to play. That kind of still keeps things in C9's favor, though. 4 versus 3, another adrenal surge coming out. 60 seconds to play, and Yeti doesn't care about no buff, still finds one. Traded back by Harper the other way. 3 versus 2 here, Jess, for Cloud9.
My problem is it looked like they were all trying to go for those solo YOLO mini game sort of versions of kills. They're also not dealing with those C4s, which are raining out left, right, and center. Do they know Vamos is over towards that pantry area and that Yeti's coming for the flank? Beautiful double kill, make it a quad. He'll need an ace to make it work because there is a 1v1 left here, Des. That adrenal surge is absolutely bursting through Nova, and as he's on 1 bullet of HP, so is Nova. It could not get any more clear cut than this as we get down to the last 20 seconds. Nova will bait Des, but I'm worried if he keeps baiting it out, he'll run out of time.
He's going to try and stick it here as well. Pros don't fake. This will get all the way down, and now we're into a 1v1, weighted in towards Cloud9. Yeti impacting the wall out, stepping round. Can he make it for the ace and pull the defuse off? The longer angle. Oh, he sees in crouch, but they both missed the shots. Like ships in the night, the bullets pass one another, and Nova has pieced the hell out. Shoots out the default count that was somehow still alive. Yeti going for a defuse of his own. Will he try and stick it all the way? Oh, gets the spray around the corner as Yeti does come off the defuse. Manages to win the 1 versus 1 after getting the plant down. It was so close for the Yeti ace.
I am living for that story. I mean, if you're a Cloud9 player, you're not happy with how that round went because it was a 1v3. post-plan, essentially. The plan was going down. There is no way Yeti should have been able to zoom through Memorial and absolutely massacre half of the players from C9. Close round. I mean, they're not confident rounds, but hey, guess what, Des? They pulled the 2 attacking rounds. So guess what? We get to forgive C9. Clean slate, go into the second half, and, let's see how the defensive half goes for them, because guess what? Got the Frost, got the Mirror, got a 6 picket, however, just to scare the side of T1 into maybe thinking they need a little bit more hard breach than they've already got, and Nova will pick back over to the smoke, the default operator, the main operator for Nova for the most part on the support, and all things look usual, unlike their attacking composition.
Nervous anticipation, I think, is probably the way to describe how I'm feeling right now. To see whether or not that form continues past those final couple of rounds, and if it now develops into the defensive half for Cloud9, or if T1 can keep up the play that they've shown in that first half. Part of me almost wants to say I can just sniff an overtime on the way as well. Based on how the game's going, Cloud9 looking a bit rocky, T1 looking quite solid. All things are kind of equal at the minute. That last round was ridiculously close. Yes, it all gambled on what Yeti could achieve, and my God, did he achieve a lot. This could have been a 5-on-1 game right now. We'd be having a very different conversation.
I still think Yeti would have died in that situation, even if he hadn't have got off the plant, just because when you're arched over and you're diffusing, a lot of your back will show, and he was only 1 bullet away from death. So even if he had a hit, his pinky toe, he would have gone down. But speaking about going down, I think these frost mats are something that are quite interesting. A lot of teams are trying to bring in. They're bringing in as area denial. We've seen multiple pros in multiple regions walk into it and be down very quickly. For T1, I've sort of poised them originally in the first couple of weeks as being quite an aggressive and unpredictable team. Their lineup here on attack screams to me usual. Get the wall open, get on in, get the frags, destroy the shields if you can. And that's exactly what they're going to do as this roam clear comes in. So aggressive, turn around, the traces, hello Envy. My God, how he got away with his life is beyond me.
He's being hot droned in as well. There are drones at the feet of Yeti as he pushed his way forwards, and I thought there's no way he gets away from this one alive, but does manage to dip and get himself back to the other side of the map, run home free, back to his team, and will live to speak another day. 60 seconds in, and they have managed to now take control of this top side. Not quite aware for a brief second then. Oh, Static! What a shot coming in from behind the shield as well to bring down 11. That's going to be an entry kill to slow down T1's ambitions, at least for now, for tamper them a little bit maybe, until Yeti, of course, sets back up and does Yeti things, bringing down Shile.
That's a really good pick onto the initial roamer, and I mean, the initial roamer was actually Envy, but that was going to be the red stairs control that they needed on the hands, or in the hands of Charles. That's taken away before the halfway mark. They've had really good map control early on, almost as if we call it that free real estate yet again, and that for me is promising. If they get 90 control and they start to get off a lot of these ex-Kairos, then I'm starting to worry here for C9. They'll be pushed all the way back, maybe even a pinch over towards Study, but that's a beautiful vertical onto the head of Revy. Well done, but Yeti making it known that he is the fragger on the side of T1.
Actually crazy how much he's done today, and finally gets stopped in his tracks after finding 2 kills in this round. Won't rampage all over the entire Cloud9 roster. 3 versus 2 for Cloud9, though. They do have the advantage, and being on the defensive side with 3 smokes still in pocket. I'm thinking here, Jess, they've got a pretty good chance of winning this round now, given there are 45 seconds left.
The big thing for me is the lack of pressure onto Study. They've opened up half the wall. It means the player can play very safely there. He has the door, he has the line of sight, right where Replica was shooting there. That's a lot of different angles as an attacker you need to watch. And if you don't want to go for the plant, that means you have to go for the frags. And none of the C9 players are giving away their positions just yet. That's why they're just blindly looking. Is anyone here? Replica still has a drone. No Geminis to work with, as that hasn't reformed yet. So with 15 seconds left, Des, they've got nothing but run and gun left.
Run and gun with 1 more smoke still to go, and there it is. They're going to have to tank smoke at this point and run their way through, and I guarantee you someone's going to be waiting ready for them. Plant is going down. 1 does come through, but with Amos putting the plant down, he's definitely getting finished off from Study. Static swings round and closes things out. Cloud9 on the road to recovery.
Playing really passive there in the dying moments of the round when you know you have quite a numbers advantage is what I would call the precipice of a professional team. There's some teams that let them get to them, about, we got numbers, let's dominate, let's run at them, we're going to absolutely slay. I don't think it's necessary, especially when you've got time on your hands. I think as a defending team, as long as you have your crossfires and the entry points covered, you're all good. You don't need to overstep your mark. I like that C9 played that really well there, and they knew what parts of the map they still had to work with. A lot of teams will try and take back parts of the map they've lost. Not necessary there for C9. For T1, however, I wouldn't say that was a total loss. It wasn't a massacre by any means, and I'm glad that these rounds are close because as Cloud9 is slowly closing the gap in round count, T1 needs to stay strong.
In the face of adversity, a Cloud9 that always seem to warm up in the second half of... I don't know what it is. The start of Villa, always shaky. The second half, always strong from Cloud9. Seems to be the curse that's probably going to follow them on this map for a long time. Let's see how things shape up, though, with Trophy and Statry now being the next site that we head to. No surprises here. Valkyrie that we've seen banned away. I believe we showed the stats in EUL the other day. The most banned defensive operator being available here with the C4 on side 2 also being brought along.
I think she's just really good for the intel, especially in positions that, unless you drone it out, and let's be really honest here, APAC is not a region outside of Fnatic that plays a lot of IQ. That has been my biggest criticism of APAC North as a region, is they will actively try and take every single operator except for IQ. And it just blows my mind sometimes because they're going up against Valkyrie, they're going up against different gadgets that can really use an IQ. So I'm glad to see it slowly coming into the compositions of the attackers. But for the most part, they're going to have to drone these out as they don't have an IQ to work with here. But they seem much more worried with the Roman that's already skedaddled up red.
Love this, by the way. The Gemini and the drone leading the charge for Revy to be the main entry into the building for them. But 11's already found himself down on the dirt, being shot from master bedroom, I think, in this case, the hatch above, where Static swung out the plan and deploys a smoke to finish him off so he can't get rezzed. Beautiful play coming out.
That was a really good, bit of usage, because sometimes you go, oh, I don't want to use my smoke in case I miss, but he knew there the player had just gone down. You've got to be quick on your feet. You've got to think very quickly, otherwise they will crawl away. That's an important player here because I'm pretty sure they haven't cooked the ADS on the shield, so how much do they have to work with here? They do have a couple of grenades, and they have the gun on the side of Yana, and I think... how?
Hello? I mean, they get it now, but what happened to the gun 6?
This happened to Fnatic as well on this exact map just before. It's where they didn't ADS, where they just pretty much hip-fired it and hoped for the best. They didn't aim, they tried to quick peek it. Maybe that's why.
Possibly?
Might have hit the door, Fred.
I'm perplexed as how it's happened twice in one day, but here we are. Never mind. The shield has been removed after a great amount of utility and a frag grenade was committed in for it. So you're kind of seeing this hole still come out from a Wamai and a Jaeger to try and hold down the shield on Massa for as long as possible, or again, at the very least, burn as much utility as you can. So come execution time or come trying to open the wall, for example, you're going to have to worry about all the extra utility hanging on the other side. And already here, you can hear the impacts raining over, I believe, from Envy or Harper. They've got rid of one. Second one comes out. Does it stop it again? It does, but they're going to keep on cycling through these Habana pellets all day long. With the changes she's got now, does no longer uses all 6 at once. You can have 2, 4, or 6. Almost can keep this up all day.
I don't know if that Valkyrie cam is still up in the bookshelf behind them, but they do manage to get that player as he starts swinging the door. That is still feeding all live intel actively. Yet he drops below for a pinch. He's surely going to go up the Astro stairs because with 25 seconds left on the clock, they're out of time to make a plan work. There's too many C9 players alive. They need to frag on out, and this pinch over towards Astro might be the play. But none of the C9 players are peeking yet again here, Des. This is the passive player from C9.
They've got to make a play happen right now. There's no reason to go high progressive on their side. It's all on T1 and they get absolutely slammed as they pull the go button. Cloud9, 3 kills to close things out and bring things even at 4 apiece. Who was concerned, Jess? Why were we ever scared for them, right?
We weren't. We weren't. Hello?
No, not at all. No.
No.
Not us.
No. Us? Never.
Nah.
No. Nope. We're just chilling. We were chilling with Cloud9. Yep. I'm not going to put myself in the bin here.
It is really interesting to see them being so defensive and it working so ridiculously well now. I think about it because for T1, they're the ones who are leading this execution till quite late in the round. Think about how long it took them, for example, to 1, get the master shield cleared off, and then 2, start focusing on the master wall. That was constantly being impact tripped. They had countless magnets, the ADSs, for example, on the shield. Cloud9 probably burnt through 1.5 to 2 minutes there, just on 2 bits of utility. The one on the doorway, the shield, and of course the wall itself, which then led to this kind of dare I say, panic from T1 when they had to call the go button and make a play happen. Even with the unfavorable situation they still found themselves in.
I really do have to give a shout out to C9. I mean, like I said, they're just not even giving an inch to T1 in the dying moments of a round, and they're all holding crossfires on the entry point. So if the bridge gets opened up, let's say on the triple wall, they were holding a crossfire on it. Then there was someone making sure the bedroom door was covered. Oh, they're pushing in through bathroom, no problems. Let's back all the way up towards Wolf because they're out of time. Even if they get into trophy, they've got to look at 14 different angles, and I'm inside Wolf. So for me, C9 playing it really, really well.
I'm probably going to harp me myself a bit here. I've never heard anyone use the call out woof in my life. What the hell are you talking about?
So we're in EU when I play with my Yeah, in EU and NA, when I play with my North American friends, or in EU, predominantly in NA with my NA friends, they call it woof. So I've just sort of stuck onto that quite a bit and run with it.
We call it wolf generally in EU, right?
I mean, are we talking about the same spot?
Well, what spot are you referring to when you say
connector
wolf?
window? You know, connector window, wolf, etc.
Wolf.
Yeah. Yes, wolf.
OLF is what I've always said. I've never heard it called wolf. Sorry, woof. WOOF. That's a new one.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were mocking me for my accent. My apologies.
No. You're saying woof like dog woof woof, aren't you?
It's my accent, Des.
Is it really? Are you trying to say wolf?
Oh, yes.
Oh, it sounds like woof. I thought you've been saying woof all day long.
I hate you so much.
That is what it sounds like, bro. What can I say?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my duo full time, and it is killing me that it is taking him over a year to realize that with my Australian accent, sometimes the words are going to sound different. I don't
I'm sorry,
wolf.
Jess. I've never heard an Australian say wolf and it comes out sounding like woof.
I'm done with this. I am more focused on this round. I want to see if this IQ is going to get a freebie on the pulse. And unfortunately, Replica shoots too early, gives away the gig, and Static will walk away with their life. But guess who won't? Revy, as he tries to make his entry in on bedroom over towards Statue. C9, they're just showing us why they are the best team in APAC North, because they can pronounce wolf and I can't, supposedly. That's all it is.
That's absolutely, I'm never going to forget that now. That's brilliant. Either way, the 2 kills they've now found for Cloud9 again put them in a very commanding position here. It does give 70 seconds for T1 to scramble together a response, but scramble is probably all they're going to be able to do. What perplexes me a little bit is we are 2 minutes in, and yet every single piece of utility is still available for these 3 attackers. Impacts, concussions, breaching rounds, Banner X Kairos, the flashbangs, claymores, everything. It's all still on side. Nothing has been committed anywhere yet. And you have to ask the question, why does it take so long?
Oh, good night. They should have known that was going to happen. A flawless round from C9. It has just been a slow progression of upwards trend here for C9 as the rounds have progressed. And the second half, we did say, well, that's an opportunity for them to reset the mental. And they've just reset the scoreboard here for us, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to swing things well in their favor. First time in this entire matchup, they are a round above T1, and they do so in a flawless fashion. I think a one-sided affair on each half is a really hard one to throw to the desk, for example, because that's going to have, them turn around and go, well, T1 defensive-sided, Cloud9 defensive-sided, but is it really that simple? Probably not.
I'm just looking back over the notes I took in week 2 from when C9 played down 1 the the only time round. And for example, round 1 was won by an unlucky TK coming out from down 1 in round 1 in defense. Round number 2, they completely slapped Cloud9 off the park with Yas getting a 4K, Woogie taking the 5th. Round number 3 was a very close 1v1 late round. Round 4, the down 1 then went on to win, had some excellent firefights littered throughout the whole round. It was a really good, decent round to watch. But again, it kind of has that theme of Cloud9 struggling to really, tame the other team and take control on Villa attack. And it only really feels like now that they're starting to, again, warm into it. It's almost an exact identical story, admittedly with a bit more craziness in terms of operator selection. But it's only when they move on to defense that we do finally start to see that old school, well, not even old school, but the Cloud9 that we all know and love, and that has such a high ceiling.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news as well and say that this game's a bit of an anomaly, because if you look at the statistics of wins on which side for each map, Villa and Oregon are the lowest defensive win rates out of the entire map pool for defensive-sidedness. So it shouldn't be this way, technically, if you're looking at how the whole trend for APAC North has gone throughout all of the plays. So I'm a little worried here that quite possibly there's just a little bit of a synergy issue, maybe a composition issue, maybe a weirdly decided aggression issue as well on the side of C9 in the first half. And that's why both of these teams are struggling here. But I do think, especially T1 on their attack, they are absolutely being outclassed here by C9.
They are. It's starting to warm up to that point. Unless they can get around back here and still keep overtime as a thing on the board, because I thought when they hit 4 rounds, man, 2 more rounds and they've stolen at least 1 point away from Cloud9. That could have been big when you look at how the standings are shaping up. And T1, let's not forget, are currently sat way down near the bottom. They were currently sitting 8th place off the back of this. They aren't in dead. Well, they are in dead last, actually, thinking about it. Only 8 teams present. Cloud9 would now cement themselves at the top, and T1's fortunes will go from bad to worse to even worse. They will stay dead bottom and have a real rough 3 games ahead.
Well, now the Fnatic's collected their 3 points. There's no one else really to babysit them on the bottom of the leaderboard, and that's a harsh way to put it, but you know what? These points were absolutely crucial. Even 1 point or 2 points in overtime would have still kept them in the running, but even if you were to do just a whole stage analysis, they're actually out of the running for the top 5 if they lose this game. Almost 100%. It would require someone to lose all of their games, get 0 points in the middling pack, and that seems very, very unlikely here for T1. So now they're pretty much just fighting to propel themselves into either 3, 2, or 1 points. I mean, when I say that, they just want any points on the board. They need to get themselves off the bottom. It doesn't seem likely with how Cloud9 are absolutely shredding through them on their defense. That flick with the Scorpion was beautiful before from MV Taylor. But things have slowed down considerably. C9 backed all the way on up. And yet again, they're doing that thing where they go, all right, we could just waste time. Envy can absolutely run a playground over on the other side of the map because there's no flake drones. And yeah, they could run it this way if they'd like.
Envy as a player is probably one of the ones that will go into my top 3 as one of the most impressive players in modern Siege. Only because when I think about it, his journey that he's had through a number of teams over the years, he's currently one of the older players playing in Siege. I think he's like 26 years old at the minute. But look at the scores that he consistently puts up week after week. Players can sit there and say, oh, all these new kids get into the game, just out-frag me, I can't keep up. Envy says, yeah, screw that. I'm going to stay at the forefront of the game. I will keep on being one of the best fraggers in the region. All that whilst being captain of the team. That's one hell of a responsibility to hold up, and no doubt sets a real role model for a lot of the younger players that appear in APAC. Either way, as I speak about him, he's now down on the deck, but it's a 4 versus 2 for Cloud9. This surely isn't a round that they can lose with only 2 seconds on the clock, and even here, T1 have given up. Vamos has gone, yeah, peace out. Round 10's done. Forget about it. Cloud9, you can take that 6th round on your scoreboard. It's 6 and 4. Cloud9 move up to match point.
Oh, what a shame. I mean, the fact that we now have the introduction of mandatory player cams really gives me a good indication. And sure, you don't know exactly what a player's thinking, but just the look of a little bit of defeat there, right at the end when they were blocked off of the smoke, the AV door was just pretty much unpushable, that Banshee was still on Map's table, probably 3 different lines of sight held on them from both the bar, vault, and the study door. Way too much for them to have to fight through. I think C9 have showed us that, I mean, you can stumble and fall, but they can get up quite gracefully. And then for T1, they're still working on the cohesion, I suppose, the attacking half that every team oftentimes struggles with. A little bit less in this meta, though. I will give them that.
They've basically gone to a really fancy dinner party. Have tripped and fallen. Their face has gone straight into a cake. They've stood up with egg all down the face and whatever else you might want to say. Look, an absolute mess. Wiped themselves down. And 5 minutes later, it's like everyone has forgotten about the misfortune that came ahead of them. Because now we're all talking about how great Cloud9 look again. It's weird that they've now gone on to take 6 rounds back to back as well and bring it up to the point that we currently sit at. And for T1, imagine being 4s up and thinking, man, this is going really well. And then suddenly Cloud9 just go, right, time to become the team that we always were. Unlucky boys, sorry. I hope you enjoyed your 5 minutes of hopefulness, but no, it's simply not going to happen.
Well, now that we're on match point, it is up to T1 now to be able to scrounge 2 rounds together to just put themselves into overtime to hope to pull apart any points, which is so desperately needed. I mean, if you haven't been looking at the leaderboards overall, T1 is sitting at the bottom with 3 full losses with a -12 round differential and 0 points. for a brand new, very big organization who's joining APAC North with pretty much a brand new roster outside of 11 and, of course, Yeti. That is something that needs to change, and it needs to change soon. I'll happily give them all of stage 1, considering they're a pretty brand new lineup and they're still working things out. But I mean, it doesn't give a lot of confidence when they are slipping possible wins away against really, really important opponents.
We've said this about a couple of teams today, actually, is that, you know, stage 2, stage 3 might be where we really see them start to shine. And I'm curious as to why Smoke came flying out the window. Guess he's trying to play at least a little bit of early disruption, waste another 10 seconds. Oh, look, Jess, it's this setup again. We've got 6 impact nades this time. They're ready to defend Master Wall to the teeth by the looks of it. But at least here, T1 have broken that shield a little bit earlier. It's taken about 60 seconds. Now the war for Master Wall can begin.
The war for gunfights can also begin because Yeti and Replica almost simultaneously take out Harper and Nova. That's the Maestro, that's the Malusi. The impacts, they're gone. And T1, they've brought a bit of fire with them this round. They don't want to lose this match by any means, and it's all up to Shah. We've seen him clutch before. 1 DB&0, no, that player doesn't go down. It means that he'll have a 1v3 with a whole minute and a half to work with here. This is so much time for the attackers here. They could even just stop themselves, drone him out, work out where he is, go for a plant, and hold the rotates, and that's going to be really hard for Shah.
Always nervous when it's Shile, though. You know what this guy can do. We've seen him do it so many times over. MB Taylor, another player that I keep on speaking about. These two as a duo can be unstoppable. Plant is going down. He can't see it from where he is. Going to have to push quite aggressively. One's at the top of Astro. Can't quite connect that kill. And now the diffuse is down. This is where you start thinking unwinnable comes to mind, because the players can now get themselves outside the windows again. Not only has Shah got to kill 3 of them, he's probably going to have to go outside the map to make some of that happen, whilst contesting every single corner or angle that he steps into. Bit of a wrong way to be looking there. Vamos, knowing that he was coming from this doorway, finds the one, sees the second, can't quite put him in the dirt, and gets put to bed by Replica. They do find round number 11, and suddenly at 6 and 5, you're thinking, have T1 got it in them to force this to overtime and claim at least 1 point against CLOUD9?
They are 1 round away from getting their very first point here in stage 1 of APAC North 2021. And for a team that has shown they do have promise, and they've shown aggressive promise. I like that they have a different play style compared to other teams. You can see C9 on their defense. They've shown that they can be quite passive. T1 has shown that their aggression can oftentimes work. They just need that consistency. 1 more round, boys, you get yourself a point, you put yourself on the board, and you show that you can be a contender, especially against the best team in APAC North currently. Because with CAG losing before, C9 are at the top of the leaderboard currently.
You know, I had to check the response in chat earlier to see if I was just being a moron about the whole wolf and wolf thing. Yeah. And some guy goes, I'm Brazilian and knew that she was saying wolf, stupid Casa. And I was like, yeah.
Thank you, you are stupid.
But a lot of chat were then like woof woof. There was just woof woof spams all the way down chat. It was hilarious.
Hour.
I swear it sounds like you say woof and not wolf. I swear to God. I'm going to listen back to it later and be like, right, time to go and get my ears checked. That's the way it's going to go.
No, I won't judge you. I do have, a lot of people will call Australian accents lazy English because we don't pronounce all of the letters in the word. We do,
yeah,
it does sound...
Can you just say it a few times for me? Say wolf for me a few times.
Wolf. Woof. Woof.
You're saying woof. I swear to God, you're having me on. It sounds like woof. You're having me on. I'm not even joking anymore.
I am done with this because not only have many people misinterpreted what I've said before because of my accent, it makes me feel more foreign than I actually am.
Than you actually are? What does that even mean?
I'm like half British, technically.
I'm not going into those jokes today, Jess. Let's get into the final round, round number 12. Well, it could be the final round of normal time. We'll put it that way. Let's see if they can do anything here, T1. They did have a pretty good showing in that last round with the 2 early burst kills they got, eventually wearing Cloud9 down into a 1 versus 3, and Shile, sadly, couldn't deliver the goods despite him slowly warming up as this game has progressed. It's going to be another war by the looks of it in towards the main bedroom. At least to begin with, no one's setting up upstairs with shields, no real craziness, but C4s are coming out.
No.
Think he saw the scan and thought he was inside of Astro. He would be incorrect, but Yeti turns around and brings down Charles. They were hoping for some kind of play off the chaos of the C4, but there's no kill to be found. Charles in the dirt, T1, and admittedly Yeti, a slither of HP, but is still alive, and it's still a gun that can be trained towards Cloud9.
Breaching charges as well. Very important we point that out because 2 whole C4s were used just to get Yeti down to that slither of HP. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. You know what else is possibly worth it though? This flank from Envy, and he doesn't commit to it. He gives up on it. What does he think is happening? He doesn't manage to commit to it, and considering that would have done major damage here to T1, it looks like this passiveness from C9 on a round where they probably should have been able to regain a couple of kills from above is not the play. T1, they have multiple numbers advantage here. Those initial kills from Yeti absolutely blasting through the side of C9, and Revy as well getting one for the show. They've got so much time to work with here. Gemini will come out. They're going to collect a lot of intel, and what I do have to talk about is 11 crouch walking underneath as well. If he comes crouch walking into Memorial, he can do so much damage.
Almost managed to get them as well from below, which would have been absolutely catastrophic. They found one. Do they find the second? Harper springs out and finds a second, back into a 3 versus 3 for Yeti to trade it over. I said 1 HP wouldn't be enough because his gun still points toward Cloud9. Now he's going to have to do it all from a 1 versus 2 as Cloud9 have them on death's door. 20 seconds to go. The diffuser halfway across the site. No chance he can recover it. He's going to have to go for the kills on this one, but the angles are so deadly. Sees the head, but Envy puts it to bed. Cloud9 take round number 12. It goes 7 and 5. T1 was so close, but all the history books will remember is 3 points to Cloud9, nothing for T1.
Well, that
Thumbs,
was
guys. Thank you.
Yeah, a little bit of a thumbs up. You gotta do the thumbs up for the camera. So, show everyone that you were not worried at all, even though that went very, very close. That was to the wire there for C9, let's be absolutely honest. And I am glad for T1 that, I mean, it looks like the thorn in the side of C9 is other Korean teams, whereas for other Korean teams, they seem to be able to work well. For C9, they're struggling with other Korean teams. Damwon the other day walking through them, and now T1, the bottom-rated team in all of APAC North, is the one that gives them the biggest challenge. A little bit of a question mark there, but for all the C9 fans, thumbs up.
All in the camera as well, so we like basically all the way in like they were doing, absolutely. Well, Cloud9 showing that their attacks on Villa. Couple of questions to ask about the operator lineups, I guess. No, hard breach confused us a few times. Capital not working the way they wanted, but enough woofing from us. Let's go to the Wolves on the desk and get their thoughts on this game.
Oh no.
We have no